Good morning, dear students. Today we will be discussing a very important topic, that is Fournier's gangrene, and you can see in the picture Dr. Jean Fournier, who described this disease. We will go by case scenario. A 55-year-old, thin-built, alcoholic, diabetic, homosexual male who is taking steroids for bronchial asthma and is having HB1AC 8.4, is presenting with swollen scrotum and excruciating pain, out of proportion pain for last 7 days. When we took history, the onset was insidious and it started with some sort of itching in the scrotum after mild trauma to the scrotal area. Now, the question is, what is your diagnosis and why? What are the various risk factors which can exacerbate this disease? What clinical finding do you expect? How will you manage this case? That means the investigations as well as treatment, and what would be the complications suppose you do not treat this patient in a short time. And you can see in the picture, this type of picture we usually come across when we are sitting in the outdoor. We will be discussing this Fournier's gangrene into various headings. See, I keep on telling to all students, whether the topic is long or short, you have to classify your headings, and therefore, if you will classify your headings, you can write at least 4 or 5 lines in each of the headings and you can complete the answer. So, the definition, etiology and the risk factors, the pathogenesis and the pathology, the incidence, the clinical features, differential diagnosis, investigations, treatment, whether they are medical or the surgical, and the complications. These are the headings under which we will be discussing one by one. Before we go further, you see these 3 diagrams. The diagram on the left side of the upper hand, this is a male patient, and you can see that there is a necrotic skin area, and this is a typical case of Fournier's gangrene. On the right side of the upper side, you can see she is a female patient. That means what? This gangrene can be present in male as well as in female, and the lower picture, it shows you that the patient, there some sort of diversion has been done through the catheter. So, as far as the definition is concerned, I told you previous also that it is named after a French venereologist, Jean Alfred Fournier, in 1883, and this is basically defined as polymicrobial necrotizing fasciitis of perineum, perianal or genital area, and this genital area can be of male or female. So, this is basically a necrotizing fasciitis. If we talk about the etiology and the risk factors, initially when Jean Fournier described, he described it as idiopathic, that means there is no cause, but later on in 75% of the cases, some inciting cause is present. When you take the history, when you do the investigations, you find some of the inciting cause, and this necrotizing process, this commonly originates from infection in the anorectum or urogenital tract or skin of the genitalia. So, from this area the infection starts. Then if you divide the etiology, the anorectal causes, it can be infection in the perineal glands or manifestation of colorectal injury, some sort of impalement injury, some sort of rectal injury, or even the malignancy and the diverticulitis in the colorectal area. If you talk about the urogenital cause, then it can be in the bulbourethral glands, and as you know, these bulbourethral glands, they are also known as Cowper's gland, present below the prostate, and they basically lubricate the urethra. Once they are infected or they are inflamed, then there could be one inciting cause. Then there could be urethral injury because of any instrumentation, or you may be having even lower UTI. Then if you talk about the skin causes, the dermatological causes, then there are certain diseases of the skin like hidradenitis suppurativa, or there could be some pressure ulcer of the scrotum because of the large filariasis, because of the large hydrocele, and because of the pressure over the scrotum and the base, then there could be gangrene, and that could be the inciting cause, or trauma to scrotum or the peritoneum because of the any reason. Other less common causes, just for the sake of knowledge I am telling you, they are not very common. They are as a consequence of bone marrow malignancies like multiple myeloma. Then this multiple myeloma may be associated with Fournier's gangrene or SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus, or Crohn's disease. So, whenever you are getting these cases and you do not find any other cause, then you have to look for these rare causes also. Certain risk factors, they are attributed, as in our case the diabetes mellitus, our patient, as you remember, it was 8.4 HbA1c. That means what? Uncontrolled diabetes. Alcoholism, our patient was alcoholic. Malignancies, as I told you in the etiology, various malignancies, they reduce the immune power and they promote the infection. Cirrhosis liver, again because of the poor immune power, immunity. Chronic steroid use, because again if your patient is using the steroid for a very long period, then again the immunity goes down, and in our case also the patient was taking steroid to just for the treatment of the bronchial asthma. Some HIV infection, malnutrition, morbid obesity, all these causes, they reduce the immunity, and therefore the bacteria, they have got more chances of propagating or causing necrotizing fasciitis. You need to remember that this is a polymicrobial infection and minimum of 4 isolates are to be there. That is very typical of Fournier gangrene. Just only 1 or 2 bacteria suppose you get, you will not label this gangrene or this infection as a Fournier's gangrene. Minimum 4 isolates have to be there. If you talk about the bacteria, the most common aerobic bacteria is Escherichia coli. You can see from the either from the urinary tract or from the colorectal, this is the most common bacteria. The commonest aerobe, that is a very good MCQ, is E. coli, and the commonest anaerobe is Bacteroid. The others are Streptococcus, Staphylococcus, methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, the Klebsiella, Pseudomonas, Proteus, Clostridium, all these bacteria can be there, and minimum 4 isolates. The most common anaerobe, the aerobe is E. coli, most common anaerobe is Bacteroid. Once there is development of bacterial infection, then these bacteria, they act synergistically. That means they complement each other. They enhance the destructive process of one bacteria enhances the destructive power of the another. So, what they do? They cause basically the obliterative endarteritis and production of various enzymes that cause destruction of the facial barrier, and the infection grows. Always, as I told you, that there is an imbalance between the host immunity and the virulence of organism. Naturally, if the virulence will be more, the chances of getting infection will be more. If the immunity is less, again the chances of getting infection will be more. If you look carefully this flow chart from top to bottom, the bacteria, as soon as it enters, whether it enters through urinary tract or the anorectal or through skin, they act through synergism, and that means this synergism leads to fibrinoid coagulation of nutrient vessel to the skin. Once this vessel is obliterated, there is skin ischemia, that means poor oxygenation, and that you can measure through transcutaneous oximetry, that is TCO2, and you will find that the oxygenation of the skin is reduced. Once the oxygenation is reduced, the anaerobic bacteria, they will grow. So, that means what? Initially, because of the infection of the aerobic bacteria, the endarteritis, the arterial occlusion, skin ischemia, growth of the anaerobic bacteria, and all these, or the microaerophilic, and they produce certain enzymes, that is collagenase or the lecithinase or the hyaluronidase. All these enzymes, they digest the facial barrier, and once the facial barrier is digested, the infection is rapidly spread throughout the tissue. So, that is how the pathogenesis of Fournier gangrene works. If we talk about the pathology, if you take the tissue and you see the tissue under the microscope, the pathognomonic features, they are the necrosis, this necrosis is in the superficial as well as in the deep tissue, because it is a fasciitis, the fascia is digested. So, infection will go deep to the fascia also, and you will find that the small vessels, they will be blocked because of the fibrinoid coagulation. Whenever there is acute infection, there is polymorphonuclear infiltration, and you can even find the organism, microorganism you can find within under the microscope. One very important thing is that you can find air spaces, and that is very important as far as the Fournier gangrene is concerned. If you under the microscope you find some air spaces, it will be a pathognomonic of Fournier's gangrene. This is more common between the age of 30 years to 60 years, whether male or the female, but 10 times more common in males as compared to females, if you talk about the incidence. And if you talk about the social habits, then it is more common in the homosexual males. Why? Because in the homosexual males, there are more chances of rectal trauma, infection, and that will lead to that can be an inciting factor for development of Fournier's gangrene. What could be the basic clinical feature? As I told you, you remember, when you find less of the signs and more of the symptom, that means the hallmark, if you see the blue part down, the hallmark of the Fournier gangrene is out of proportion pain and tenderness in the genitalia. That means you may be having very less signs, but patient will be complaining that yes, he is having a great pain. So, you should take it seriously. And of course, the onset is insidious, usually starts with a scratching or some sort of scratching sensation, and that was there in our case. And there is almost always a prodromal stage, the pretoxemia, that means for 2 to 7 days patient feels lethargic, malaise, all sorts of tiredness is there because of the inflammatory reaction. Then this pain gradually increases in period of 7 days, it starts as an insidious onset, pain gradually increases in due course of time, and tenderness also increases, and there is progressive erythema over the skin, and this erythema increases all the area which surrounds that scrotal or the genital skin. When you look at, you must have seen in the diagram also, the skin appears dusky because of the lost arterial circulation. Because of the ischemia, the skin loses its sheen, it becomes dusky, and when you examine, palpate, you can find even the crepitation because of the air spaces, and this crepitation is a very pathognomonic sign of Fournier's gangrene. And obviously, you can find that there could be some purulent discharge, if there is a breach of skin because of the pus from inside is coming outside, and in due course of time the gangrene also develops, the area becomes black. Once the area becomes black, the portion which becomes black becomes painless. Why? Because of the nerve necrosis. So, it is very important for you to understand. Initially, it started with a mild pain, then the pain increased out of proportion, and when the gangrene sets in, then pain almost subsides. That is the usual course of Fournier's gangrene. Then what could be the differential diagnosis? Suppose a patient comes to you in the outdoor saying that's I am having scrotal pain, acute scrotal pain and swelling. What should come into your mind? It is not only Fournier gangrene, it can be a cellulitis, it can be epididymoarchitis, you have to examine. It could be a gas gangrene because of the crepitus. Some hernia, they are within the scrotum, the complete hernia, and they become inflamed. There could be complicated hernia, even the hydrocele can cause complication, can turn into pyocele and can form the inflammatory skin changes. Even the necrotizing fasciitis and the testicular torsion, as we talked previously in my previous lecture. This torsion can also cause the skin changes as well as the acute scrotal pain. The other causes can be a trauma because of the testicular fracture, the scrotal hematoma, the abscess and the vasculitis. All these causes, they should come to your mind when you are diagnosing a case of Fournier's gangrene. So, to differentiate all these causes, you need to do certain investigations, and these investigations, of course, CBC, that is a complete blood cell count. Here what do you expect? You expect increased TLC, total leukocyte count, and increased neutrophils. Then if you will do electrolytes, then there will be maybe derangement because of the toxemia, especially the hyponatremia or the hyperkalemia will be there, and serum creatinine or the blood urea nitrogen will be deranged if there is a kidney failure. If you will do the blood sugar, you will come to know the patient is diabetic or patient may be controlled or uncontrolled by HbA1c, and that is important for you, and you should do all these investigations. Then if suppose patient is very critical, ABG is required, that means what is happening in the lung, where the ventilation is affected or not. So, through arterial blood gases you need to know about the pulmonary physiology. And of course, when the patient is having toxemia, fever, you need to do the urine culture as well as the blood culture to know about the appropriate therapy. And if the toxemia persists for a very long time, all of you know, then there is consumptive coagulopathy, and that may lead to DIC. So, you need to do coagulation profile to know whether we are dealing with disseminated intravascular coagulation also or not. You also do imaging. You get the case, you have done the clinical examination, you have sent the investigations, the biochemical and the blood investigations, then you do certain imaging technique, the conventional radiography, that means you take the plain X-ray, ultrasound, CT scanning whenever it is needed, or you can even go for MRI. You look at carefully in this picture, this is the plain X-ray. In the plain X-ray, you can see that in the scrotum, you can find a halo, a radiolucent area, that is the gas basically, and this gas where the arrow is being pointed out, this again is pathognomonic of four-near gangrene. If you find gas in the plain X-ray even, you can confirm it is not all other cases, it is not the epididymoarchitis, it is not the hydrocele, but it is a four-near gangrene. When you do ultrasound, you can see in the ultrasound also you can find the gas, and you can differentiate, this gas is there, and you can differentiate whether that flow of the blood is normal or increased. See, in the four-near gangrene the flow is normal, while in other inflammatory causes like the epididymoarchitis the flow will be increased, while in the torsion testis the flow will be decreased. So, in the ultrasound not only the gas you see, not only the extent of the disease you see, you also look for the blood flow, and testicular blood flow will be normal in four-near gangrene. But the problem is when you are touching the scrotum with the probe, patient may feel pain. So, that is a limitation of ultrasound. Then in certain patients you are suspecting, but minimal amount of gas is there, you can detect by CT scan. The importance of CT scan, it is not done in all the cases, but wherever you are suspecting and you want to know the extent, then you can know the extent through CT scan. And MRI, as all of you know, that this is a better for soft tissue delineation. So, as and when required you can go as per the facility available, you can do MRI, but the problem of the MRI is that the critical patient cannot be put in that MRI chamber. So, that limitation will be there. Then the treatment can be medical or surgical, like in infection, as you know, in the medical treatment always you restore the normal organ perfusion and reduction of systemic toxicity by taking good care of hydration, by taking good care of nutrition, by taking good care of urinary output. All these things are to be seen, and you need to see about, look about the oxygenation, the hypoxia part also through SpO2. Then broad spectrum antibiotic, those antibiotic which cover gram positive as well as the gram negative as well as the anaerobe, all these are given, and the ciprofloxacin, the clindamycin and the metronidazole, they are usually the ideal combination, but yes, you can use any antibiotic which is covering all the bacteria. If suppose you are getting in your culture the MRSA, that is the methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, you need to give vancomycin in the proper dose and taking care of the kidney function. You need to give tetanus prophylaxis also in all the patients. Then certain treatment you should know, and if the facility is available it should be done, that means the irrigation with super oxidized water. Why? Because when you will be doing this procedure, then the anaerobic atmosphere will be turned to aerobic atmosphere, and the anaerobic bacteria, they will be killed. Then patient may be put into the hyperbaric oxygen therapy to take care of the anaerobic infection, to prevent the dissemination of necrotizing fasciitis. Then IVIG can be given. Antifungal, suppose you are giving broad spectrum antibiotic for a longer period, the opportunist fungal infection can occur, and you need to give antifungal also. Certain non-conventional treatment, they are suggested, like the unprocessed honey, which is claimed to have the enzymatic reaction to take care of all the necrotic tissue, clear of all the dead tissue, and the dressing of the gauge which has been soaked with zinc peroxide. So, this is zinc, as is very well known, is very good for healing. So, you can do this non-conventional method also. The gold standard of the treatment is surgery, and in the surgery, the repeated aggressive debridement. Whatever tissue is necrosed, you have to debride it so that it should appear absolutely red. Simultaneously, you need to preserve testes, because once you are removing all the covering over the testes will hang in the air, and that may desiccate. So, that means you have to prevent the desiccation of the testes, and that how you will achieve? You will put the testes into subcutaneous pocket on the both side of the thigh, so that once healing occurs, then the testes, they are brought back to the scrotum and the scrotoplasty is done. That is very important for you to understand. We have to prevent testes in the male patient, and whenever there is an infection in this area, the urinary contamination or the fecal contamination will be there. So, you need to put a urinary catheter, as you have seen in the previous picture, to divert the urine. And in some patients, when there is especially in the females, when there is a fulminant foreign gangrene, you need to even do fecal diversion through colostomy. And vacuum assisted closure is also a well documented, well practiced type of dressing. You need certain device, you create negative pressure, and this negative pressure clears off the infection rapidly, increases the granulation process. So, you can apply vac therapy also. You see in this diagram, on the left side you can see, this is by courtesy of book, and you can see on the left side the testes, now they are absolutely red, but they are exposed. So, what you do, as you can see on the right side, both the testes, they are being implanted in the thigh. So, that we have to prevent it from desiccation. And once the area heals in, after you have done the debridement, then you can do scrotoplasty in due course of time. If the disease is not treated properly, then what complication you can have? As you can very well understand, this is a polymicrobial infection, more than 4 isolates, caused by gram positive, gram negative, and the opportunist antifungal. Patient may have acute renal failure due to septicemia. So, you have to have a close watch on urinary output. Then patient may be having ARDS because of the septicemia, acute respiratory distress syndrome, and you will keep looking the oxygenation and the condition of the lung. And patient, since it can be gram positive as well as the gram negative bacteria, patient may go into the gram negative shock. Patient may have hypotension, and because of the hypotension, the hypoxia may be aggravated, which can ultimately lead to multi-system organ failure, tetanus, and patient may even die. So, that means the disease which started from simple scratching to duskiness of the skin, the pain, gangrene, may result to even death if you have not taken proper care in early stage. That is why this disease is very important. If you have got any question, you can put that question in the chat box, or you can write to my email, that is Vinod Jain KGMU, VINOD Vinod JAIN Jain KGMU @gmail.com. I would be happy to answer. So, again we need to revise this case. The case scenario remains the same what we have discussed before. A 55-year-old thin built alcoholic diabetic homosexual male taking steroid for bronchial asthma having HbA1c 8.4 presents with swollen discolored scrotum and excruciating pain in the scrotal area for last 7 days. Onset is insidious and started as itching of the scrotum and mild trauma to the local area. What is your diagnosis? Your diagnosis is Fournier's gangrene. Why? Because you can see all the inciting factor: age, male, 10 times more common in males, alcoholic, diabetic which is uncontrolled, patient taking steroid, patient is presenting with discolored scrotum, patient is having insidious onset, and patient is having lot of pain in that area. All these things are telling you that yes, patient could be a case of Fournier's gangrene. And what are the risk factors? You can very well understand whatever we have discussed. Few of them are there, like the alcoholism, diabetic, the trauma, the homosexual, the male, the age, all the uncontrolled diabetes, they are the risk factor in the given scenario. What clinical findings do you expect? Of course, you expect tenderness, you expect some sort of crepitus, you expect all signs of inflammation, the fever, toxemia, all things will be there. And how will you manage? You will investigate, you will do the blood investigations, then of course you will be doing radiology, you will look for the ultrasound, the plain X-ray, you look for the gases, the extension, and then you will be managing the patient. In the milder cases, you can go for the medical treatment. If the patient is not responding, there is a gangrenous area, you have to go for the liberal debridement, preserving testes in male patient. And what are the complications? As I told you, the complications could be right from the ARDS up to the multi-system organ failure, renal failure, or patient can even die. Thank you very much, and next time we will meet with another topic. By that time, my best wishes to all my students.